I bought a computer. What would Barry and Ellul say? Discernment and Paradox. Written by Taylor Reed. Was Wendell Berry onto something that should be more widely considered regarding his refusal to buy a computer? He's always written by hand. There's irony in the fact that one of the writings that is most consistently guided Crosshatch Center for Art and Ecology speaks to avoiding screens. Despite that, much of my time spent working for this organization so far has been just that, behind a screen. You're not physically seeing me or hearing presently spoken words either. Our encounter is digital. Breathe with unconditional breath the unconditioned air, shun electric wire, communicate slowly, live a three-dimensioned life. Stay away from screens. Stay away from anything that obscures the place it is in. There are no unsacred places. There are only sacred places and desecrated places. An excerpt from Wendell Berry's poem, How to Be a Poet. Would my head buzz a bit less for the notched-up technological engagement I feel beholden to if I unplugged this computer from the internet? Or if I used a typewriter to piece this together? Would I feel a more deep-seated connection to my friend if I had received a handwritten letter, or dropped by their house to catch up, rather than sending a message through social media? Probably. Each of those choices involves some level of intention, and that intention entails difficulty. Where do I draw the line? These sorts of questions haven't been limited to the 21st century. My mind right now shifts towards the thoughts and writings of the French sociologist, historian, and lay theologian Jacques Ellul, 1912 to 1994. I haven't read any of Ellul's original work because it's dense and in French. I also haven't read much of his translated work either, because I haven't felt like I've had the time to give those heady, translated books the justice that they deserve. My exposure to Ellul has largely been through others writing about him and his work, or others speaking about him and his work. I want to review some of his ideas on technological society and propaganda, two interweaving concepts that he's most well known for exploring critically. And how do I want to do that right now? By watching a video online. Good grief. A day has passed. I've watched the video and have some thoughts. A small miracle, as there are so many competing claims for attention and time in life today that I find myself starting innumerably more things than I finish. Which means what I largely accomplish is a subtle sense of malaise. 1,000 unfinished projects is no motivator. This is one of the reasons why I love making wooden spoons. They're moderately easy to carve, it's a tactile craft, and you end up with something beautiful and useful. But there are a lot more half-finished spoons sitting around our house now than completed ones. Anyway, back to Ellul. One of the first things worth considering when it comes to Ellul's thought is that the terms technology and technique are loaded and problematic when it comes to translation. It's very easy to discount Ellul's thinking due to oversimplification. His concern wasn't with objects that use electricity, advanced tools, or complex machines. His concern was with a universalized, mechanized mindset that isn't appropriately responsive to the myriad complexities of life and circumstance. Technique is the totality of methods rationally arrived at and having absolute efficiency for a given stage of development in every field of human activity. That's an excerpt from Jacques Ellul's The Technological Society. Ellul believed that modern society is ruthlessly committed to efficiency and speed. Human beings are caught up in that pace. Previously, human responses to different circumstances could generally be described as reflective and deliberate. Now, human responses are often limited to reflexes, knee-jerk reactions we don't have much control over. We have time to respond to stimuli immediately and in blunt, ungrounded ways, rather than with consideration and nuance. The speed of our society tends to encourage actions that quickly multiply in ways that we don't intend and can't control. Ellul described our lives and choices in this context as the suit, helmet, and oxygen tanks of a deep-sea diver. It's a way of being that allows us to survive in an abnormal environment, but it's one that's awfully constricting. Again, it's easy to think that Ellul would call for a rejection of technology and to champion wholesale the strength and freedom of men and women stepping away from modern society. But he didn't. Ellul lived in the city. He used a phone, a record player, and electricity. He stated that technology had a hold on him, and he continually benefited from it. To understand that, but to also seek to understand the hidden obligations and conditioning of technological society, is to maintain agency and freedom. He called for awareness, analysis, and reflection. According to Ellul, this investigation should lead to a radical discussion of modern life and lived application, rather than a cold intellectual endeavor. It should lead to art and sense, and the rediscovery of values. It should lead to small groups of people employing this perspective in working to create a counterbalance to the downsides of society's technical structure. This work consists of difficult, slow, small-scale actions, and it's work at the core of being human. I suppose that's exactly what this writing has been exploring. And that work sounds an awful lot like the work of Crosshatch, as well as Wendell Berry's life work. Maybe it's alright that I'm working behind the screen, so long as I continue to grapple with the paradox of it. So friends, every day do something that won't compute. An excerpt from Wendell Berry's manifesto, The Mad Farmer Liberation Front.